Chapter 15: Ancient India. On the Indian subcontinent of South Asia, there are several major geographical characteristics that have impacted the development of ancient India for thousands of years. These favorable geographic characteristics promoted the growth of early civilizations in river valleys in the region. Landforms in India. The Himalayan and Hindu Kush mountains separate India from China and the rest of Asia. These natural barriers helped protect the first settlers from attack. The Himalayas include 9 of the world's 10 tallest mountain peaks, including the very tallest, Mount Everest. No other mountain range in the world is as high as the Himalayas. The Himalayan mountain range spans more than 1,500 miles. It passes through the present-day countries of Afghanistan, Bhutan, China, India, Nepal, and Pakistan. There are a wide range of climates along and among the Himalayas that range from a tropical forest at the base of the mountains to Arctic snow-capped mountain peaks. Melted glacier water from the Himalayas is the main source of water for many of the rivers in India and China, including the Ganges River and Indus River. The Thar Desert also provided a natural barrier on the Indian subcontinent. This barrier helped protect early settlers in a river valley to the north. Major water sources. 2 major rivers were particularly crucial to early settlements in India. Let's take a look at them and the ocean that surrounds the Indian subcontinent. Ganges River. The Ganges River starts in the Himalayan mountains and winds more than 1,500 miles to the Bay of Bengal in the Indian Ocean. Today, the Ganges provides water to the country's most fertile farmland and to its most densely populated areas. Historically, this river valley was an important area of settlement. Indus River. The Indus River begins high in the Himalayan mountains of Tibet. It flows through desert regions of northern India and Pakistan before emptying into the Arabian Sea. Today, the Indus River provides water for Pakistan's farmlands. Historically, 2 of the earliest civilizations on the Indian subcontinent started in this river valley. The Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean surrounds much of the Indian subcontinent. Both the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea are part of it. It is surrounded by Africa to the west and Australia to the east, and from Asia to the north and the Southern Ocean to the south. The Indian Ocean is the 3rd largest of the world's 5 major oceans. A civilization emerges. For thousands of years, seasonal winds, called monsoon winds, have blown across South Asia. Summer monsoons brought rain to India for months at a time. The summer rains caused the Indus River to overflow its banks, depositing rich silt across the nearby plains. As a result, the Indus River Valley was the most fertile region in ancient India. These geographic conditions allowed the first settlers to become an agricultural civilization. Early Indian agriculture. Between 6,500 and 3,000 BCE, people established the first permanent farming settlements in the Indus River Valley. The settlers in India did not depend entirely on irrigation. Why? The summer monsoons from May to September brought enough rainfall and flooding from both the Ganges and Indus rivers to produce an abundance of crops for food. Farmers grew staple crops like barley, rice, wheat, lentils, and chickpeas, as well as spices including cilantro, garlic, ginger, sesame, and cumin. Many of these products are still used in Indian cooking today. Cities and civilization. Because farming made food readily available, settlements in the Indus River Valley grew into small villages. Since not everyone had to farm to survive, villagers took on other roles in society. People specialized as craftsmen, artists, weavers, potters, priests, and many other skilled trades. As a result, an early economy started and people prospered. Around 3000 BCE, the first true cities of the Indus River Valley civilization were built. The people in these cities shared a unique culture, including their food, writing, language, government, and other ways of life that was remarkably different from cultures in ancient civilizations in other parts of the world. Location matters. Like other early river valley civilizations, the geographic characteristics of the Indus River Valley supported settlement. The river provided a source for water, a means of transportation. The river valley provided a habitat for plants and animals and access to natural resources. Protection from invasion. The Harappan civilization. In the early 1900s, archaeologists discovered the cities that had developed in the Indus River Valley. In 1922, they found the first of these cities. Hidden underneath layers of soil, they discovered the remains of houses and other structures built more than 4,000 years ago. Archaeologists carefully excavated the area. In this city, they found architecture built with bricks, roads arranged as a series of grid systems, sanitation and sewer systems. Archaeologists named the ancient city Harappa and referred to it as the Harappan civilization. Shortly after discovering Harappa, archaeologists uncovered another ancient city in the Indus River Valley. They called the second city Mohenjo-daro, or Hill of the Dead. Since then, archaeologists have found more than 1,000 cities and villages throughout the Indus River Valley. Based on these discoveries, we know that a complex, ancient Indian civilization existed more than 4,000 years ago in the region now occupied by Pakistan, India, and Afghanistan. The uncovered ruins of Mohenjo-daro show that the city was expertly planned. Much like a modern city, it boasted straight roads and city blocks. In the foreground, you can see the Great Bath, a large pool at the city's center. Archaeologists do not know what this pool was used for, but perhaps it was used for bathing, swimming, or even religious rituals. Harappan civilization. What do we know? The Harappan civilization survived about 1,000 years. Then, it mysteriously disappeared between 2000 and 1500 BCE. Here are things we know and don't know about the Harappan civilization and its people. Economic system. We know Harappan cities became wealthy through trade. Artisans such as weavers, potters, and metalworkers produced many useful and decorative items, such as cotton clothing, clay dishes, and gold jewelry. Traders from the Indus River Valley exchanged goods with ancient people across Asia and the Middle East, including with Mesopotamia. Government. While we do not know exactly what form of government the Harappans had, we know they had well-developed cities. This suggests that some sort of government was responsible for deciding issues related to agriculture, trade, and the construction of roads and other public works. For example, we know that roads were built in a grid of city blocks. Large cities had citadels or fortress-like structures at the center of the city. The citadel's walls protected key buildings and grain storages. Some authority had to make decisions about where and how these buildings and roads were constructed. Social structure. Like the system of government, we do not know much about the social structure of Harappan civilization. Some believe that some of the archaeological evidence suggests that there were classes, but no one knows for sure. Religion. We know the Harappans worshipped gods that often took animal or human forms. We do not know what role priests and religion played in their society. Technology. The Indus River Valley civilization was remarkably advanced. The Harappans knew how to mix copper and tin to make bronze tools for agriculture. Cities established standard measurements of weight and length to make the construction of roads and buildings uniform. That allowed the Harappans to build straight roads in grid systems. Houses were built using clay bricks, and many were 2 or 3 stories tall. Houses had bathrooms with drains. Clay pipes were built underneath cities to remove wastewater and improve sanitation, just like sewer systems today. People in cities enjoyed fresh drinking water from a city well. Writing. We know Harappans had a system of writing. They wrote in picture-like symbols, similar to the Mesopotamians and ancient Egyptians. In fact, some Harappan writing has been found all the way in Mesopotamia. The Harappans used carved stamps or seals to press images into soft clay. The seals also often include images of animals or nature. However, historians do not know how to read their writing. Language. We know that most Harappan villages spoke the same language. However, we do not know what the language sounded like or where it came from. Arrival of the ancient Aryans. The Aryan people were originally nomadic herders who counted their wealth in cattle. They discovered how to domesticate horses, which allowed them to travel across vast areas of land quickly. The ancient Aryans migrated into India and settled in northern India between 2000 BCE and 1400 BCE. They settled in the Indus River Valley, where the Harappan people once lived. Over time, the Aryan people shifted from a nomadic to agricultural society. By 900 BCE, the Aryan people had expanded into the Ganges River Valley. Like the Indus River Valley, the plains surrounding the Ganges River provided favorable geographic characteristics that promoted the growth of civilization. The Aryan people brought their cultural and agricultural practices with them as they migrated into and around India. The Vedic Age. The Aryan migration marks the beginning of a unique and distinct civilization that heavily influenced later societies in India. Unlike the Harappan civilization, this later society used a language and writing system that we understand today. This society recorded their beliefs and ideas in a collection of sacred texts called the Vedas. The word Veda means knowledge. These texts help us understand the society that developed in India during this time frame, which historians call the Vedic Age. This time period included important developments in religion, language, and social structure in ancient India. Language. The language of the Vedic age, Sanskrit, was used widely in India for more than 2000 years. Ancient Indians spoke and wrote in Sanskrit. Today, Sanskrit is a dead language, meaning it is not common for people to speak or write in Sanskrit. However, most Indian languages evolved from Sanskrit. Many words in Hindi, the most widely spoken language in India, come directly from the ancient language of Sanskrit. Literature's legacy. The religion of the Vedic age was based on the Vedas. The Aryans brought these sacred texts to India. The Vedas taught religious principles and described how people should behave in society. They include hymns, rituals, and teachings. They also include stories about the many ancient Indian gods. The Vedas form the foundational religious texts of the religion that developed from them and became the most practiced religion in India, Hinduism. Two famous epic poems that were written in ancient India are also considered important texts in Hinduism, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. These poems tell the stories of ancient Indian kings and ancient Indian gods. They also teach lessons about morality and religious beliefs. Aryan social structure. Like many other ancient civilizations, ancient Aryan society was divided into social classes. A person's occupation determined his or her social class. This class system is associated with Hinduism. It became very elaborate and still influences life in India today. The major social classes were called castes: Brahmin, priests; Kshatriyas, rulers; Vaisyas, merchants; and Sudras, laborers. Each person was born into the same caste as his or her parents. For example, the daughter of a servant was born into the Sudras, laboring caste. People learned the same job as their parents and usually remained in the same caste for life. Another group, the Dalits or untouchables, were even lower than the Sudras. They were not even considered part of the caste system, and they were the lowest group in society. In very rare circumstances, a person rose to become a member of a higher caste. For example, the son of a landowner of the Vaisyas caste might train to become a warrior in the Kshatriyas caste. However, members of the lowest classes, the Sudras and Dalits, could never change their caste. Over time, the Hindu caste system became more and more complex. Each caste was divided into hundreds of subcastes and became increasingly inflexible. People could not move from one caste to another. As a result, much of their lives were determined from the time they were born. The Hindu caste system: Brahmin, priests and religious teachers; Kshatriyas, kings, chieftains, warriors; Vaisyas, landowners, farm owners, merchants, skilled traders, minor officials; Sudras, farm workers, servants, other unskilled workers; Dalits, untouchables. The Dalit people were the lowest class. They did any job considered unclean. Members of the upper castes refused to have any contact with Dalit people for fear of becoming dirty.